Number 4, Satan is the deceiver. That's what he's called in 2 Corinthians 11 and verse 3. It says, the serpent who deceived Eve, deceive you. Satan is a deceiver. And Satan, the deceiver, wants to destroy your conscience and mine too. And he does it incrementally. He destroys our conscience so it will no longer warn us. Now the question you need to ask yourself is, do words that used to offend you no longer offend you? Did there used to be words that just jumped out at you and you, oh, boy, you wouldn't listen to that, and you would walk away from a conversation like that, but you hear them often enough? They don't offend you anymore? Do images that used to trouble your conscience as displeasing to God no longer trouble you? Do places you used to go that you felt dishonored the Lord no longer do you feel that way? Do immoral, godless activities no longer make your righteous indignation rise? Are you sitting in the gates of Sodom like Lot with evil just playing out in front of your eyes without your righteous soul being vexed as his was? In other words, have you moved away from your conscience immediately saying, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong? Are you getting numbed? If so, that is Satan the deceiver destroying your conscience bit by bit. Fifthly, Satan is called the tempter. That's in 1 Thessalonians 3:5. Paul says, I'm concerned lest the tempter tempt you and our labor be in vain. But Satan, the tempter, wants to entertain you so often with sin that you don't think that sin is as evil as it really is. And I wonder, are your entertainers and music and movies all godless? Do you primarily sit in the counsel of the wicked? Do you constantly immerse yourself with entertainment when you allow your mind to just go into neutral and to enjoy it? Is that all godless stuff? Primarily, the majority? If those godless entertainers become your heroes, that you seek and enjoy their entertainment, then God says that will corrupt you. In fact, it says in 1 Corinthians 15:33, don't be deceived. Evil company will always corrupt good habits. None of us are impervious to the constant assault of godlessness. If you get around it long enough, it reminds me of a good friend of mine in seminary. Wonderful, godly man. He told me when we were young men going through seminary, unmarried, he says, you know what? He says, I can go to any beach in the country. He said, I was a lifeguard. He says, everywhere I served as lifeguard, he said, the girls would all unhook their tops. And he said, it never bothered me. He says, I can look at naked women. Never bothers me. I said, really? I said, I know your type. I said, a friend of mine has a ranch where he's branded the cows. I said, his mother one time took a pin out of her hat and poked it in the brand, and the cow stood there unbothered. I said, do you know what you call that? Calloused and without feeling. I said, be careful. You have been so exposed to sin, your conscience no longer screams at you saying, don't look, that's wrong. Satan, the tempter, wants to entertain us so long with temptations that grieve God that finally we don't even think it's sin anymore. Number 6, Satan, the adversary of God. That's what he's called in Revelation 12 and verse 9. He's called the adversary. Satan, the adversary of God, wants to drown us in a sea of sin so that we become tolerant of it. Are you slowly accepting defeat in some areas of your life because it's just too hard to obey the Lord? It's too hard to flee from sin. It's too hard to seek to discipline my body and my mind and my emotions because sin is like a torrent. It's just coming around us each day. Did you hear that in the land of Israel, in the Gaza Strip area, that the inhabitants of the Gaza Strip kept going up to this big retaining wall of their sanitation sewer system of the city of Gaza, and they kept stealing the berm of dirt that was there, and they were using it to build their homes. And finally, one family this week was up there filling their pickup truck with sand out of this retaining wall when all of a sudden the wall gave way, and hundreds of millions of gallons of raw sewage just swept over them like a tsunami, and it actually swept into the village and caused incredible devastation and killed people. You say, that's really terrible. But that's what we live in. We live in like a tsunami of filth in this world. I mean, you can't go from the newspaper to the television to the movies to the radio to the media to everyday life without having Satan in some way or another projected toward us. That torrent of sin. But are the thresholds of what is not to be tolerated in your life slowly diminishing? Are small questionable areas in your life increasing? If so, that is Satan, the adversary of God, drowning you